Welcome back into the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap, presented by Full Press Coverage. Hope everybody enjoyed their All-Star weekend. And basketball will be resuming. I think it resumes tomorrow, Sap, or maybe there's some games tonight, but no, it's tomorrow where the games resume because today is Wednesday. I've lost track because it was supposed to be my vacation week, Sap, but because of the strike in the Newton schools, it's not vacation week, so I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Well, your All-Star break is shorter than the players' All-Star break because, they'll be back tomorrow. So it's pretty much a full week. There were only 3 games last Thursday. So most players get a week off, which is good. 2/3 of the way into the season. Those who went to Indianapolis to partake in the All-Star festivities, obviously enjoy going. And now it's back to the final 8 weeks of the season and then get ready for the playoffs. So it turns quickly.
Everybody's got like 30-ish games left, give or take, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So we're in the final stretch here of the season, and this is where we'll see probably the most exciting stuff of the season in terms of how these playoff races shape out. Because as we've talked about, the East is sort of becoming a runaway with the Celtics, but the West is so exciting, and every game is going to matter in this last part of the year, this last stretch after the All-Star break. But before we get to that, we do have to tidy up some of the things that we saw during the All-Star break. There were some highs and definitely some lows. I think this has been a discussion almost for like the last decade now, Sap, is that the three-point contest always seems to steal the show on All-Star Saturday night. And the dunk contest is just, it's not lifeless. And this year wasn't awful, but it seems like the three-point contest every year comes down to the last shot, the last rack. And then obviously the new wrinkle of having a Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu three-point shootout was also very exciting. So All-Star Saturday, Sap, what were your takeaways?
Well, the three-point contest, again, this is a microcosm of how the league is now. There's many more three-point shot attempts than there are dunks in regular games, right? I mean, again, the analytics say take threes or dunks. Anything in between is not a good shot because the value isn't there. So, the three-point
just ask Joe
contest is good.
Mazzulla.
Exactly. That's all he looks for. Mid-range game means absolutely nothing. I guess those 2 points don't count, even though Jason Tatum is really good in the mid-range. But the three-point contest is always exciting because you have a lot of the top players. And again, Dame Lillard won it for the second consecutive year. He's an all-star, so he wins it. Good take right there because there's so many great three-point shooters. The dunk contest has to be fixed. I mean, and really,
the judging was bad too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean that's also a part of it. I mean, was Gary Payton a judge? I don't remember Gary Payton being a great dunker.
I don't recall him ever dunking.
No, he kind of played below the rim. Mitch Richmond was not a great dunker. Occasionally in a game he'd have a power dunk, but maybe if he can bring back Dominique Wilkins, dare we say Michael Jordan? If Michael Jordan could show up for dunk contest, that would be pretty amazing. No, or maybe have some of the current players judge it. Look, LeBron's never going to partake in a dunk contest. Maybe have him as a judge. The only problem with LeBron is he'd give everybody a 10 because he's secretly recruiting everybody, or at least the good players, not the G League guys.
Not Mac McClung. Not Mac McClung.
No. Mac's not worth recruiting, although, he's really good at the dunk contest. The only way to get the dunk contest back to being must-see TV is you're going to have to throw money at it. I think that's the only way that this can happen. So let's say it's $2.5 million to the winner, and the sneaker companies fork over $2.5 million as well. So it'd be $5 million for the winner. Maybe you'd get some of the superstars in there. And look, when we're talking about guys that make 40, 50, $60 million a year, and they've got sneaker contracts, maybe even $5 million isn't enough, because the three names that belong in the dunk contest are Zion Williamson, John Morant, and Anthony Edwards. Those are the first three guys that come to mind, right?
Sure.
So now the problem with Zion is if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, I'm like, I don't know if I want him in there.
No.
So injury prone, right? John Morant, who I think we're going to talk about a little bit later when we talk about maybe the future face of the league, he would be perhaps the future face of the league. The problem is he decided he was going to be Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, but he could still partake in the dunk contest. Anthony Edwards, I'm kind of surprised he wasn't in it this year. Instead, Jaylen Brown did it. Jaylen Brown's a good in-game dunker, but he's not at the level as those three other guys that I just mentioned. The other problem with the dunk contest, Jet, is we've seen every dunk, and now the target audience for the dunk contest is what, 14, 15-year-olds? They could just go on YouTube and watch old
Right.
dunk contests with Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, or go watch Mac McClung doing dunk contests somewhere else. Like there's plenty of YouTubers out there that are star dunkers that will never even sniff the NBA. So again, I think the only way to solve it is throw money at it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, fair or not, LeBron James did kind of ruin it, Sap. I mean, but because it was a tradition of all the great young players who were, great athletes to compete in this, and they usually won it. Jordan won it, Kobe won it, and LeBron chose to never do it, and it's kind of everybody else as it goes with him follows his lead, and so it's been people want to see the star players do it, and very rarely do they get a star player to do it. I mean, Jaylen Brown is an all-star, and good on him for doing it, by the way, because he did not need to. He makes an insane amount of money and was playing in the game and didn't need to participate, but wanted to do it. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if, at some point they may just have to pack it in, or I still think the fans would be entertained by, it's still a basketball exhibition and have these great YouTube dunkers, like you're saying, put on a show. Why not? They can do stuff that some of these NBA guys can't or won't attempt. And obviously, like you said, they're not skilled at basketball. They're just really, really athletic people who do crazy dunks. But maybe you just do that and you have the best of the best compete for that. Maybe the winner gets a G League contract. I don't know.
Well,
Something.
my only issue with that is it's the NBA dunk contest, and to make it popular, you have the great players in it. Now, there was a stretch of time where there weren't great players in it. I mean, Isaiah Ryder was a good player. He won it. Look, Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon were both really good players. LaVine was an all-star. I don't think Aaron Gordon's ever played in an
No.
all-star game, but he was obviously great at the dunk contest. Those guys were really good at it. I mean, in its heyday, you had Jordan against Dominique Wilkins. You're not going to get anything better than that. And then you had Kobe and Vince Carter and all of those guys. So you had superstars participating in the dunk contest. And I think several of them, like Kobe, did it once, won it, and
Yeah.
then really never
Hmm.
needed to do it again because he proved he could win. Now LeBron gets blamed for everything.
Yep.
So let's blame him for ruining the dunk contest
I
because
do.
he didn't participate in it. And I think it makes some sense. And I think the reason LeBron never took part in it is I don't think he wants to be thought of as a dunker, right? Because there's so much more to his game. Look, the people that
I
can't
think he was
stand
afraid he'd
LeBron,
lose.
well, that you're on that side of the aisle. You and Skip Bayless and everybody that hates LeBron says that he's not going to do it.
Skip has been pounding this door for 21 years
He really
with
has. Yeah, as soon
the
as he
LeBron
showed
dunk
up in the
contest
league.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I mean, here's a guy who's won 4 championships, has been to 10 finals, has hit more buzzer beating game winning shots in the postseason than any player in league history, and that's documented. I don't think he's fearful of losing the dunk contest, but maybe it is. Maybe that's the case. Who knows? But I think the only way to solve this thing is throw money at it, and maybe you'll get some of the superstars in there, and it's going to have to be substantial money because these guys make a ton of money already. I mean, would $5 million be enough?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I'd
Still,
say
that's a
so.
lot of money, right? I mean, players were all in on the in-season tournament, and that was $500,000 per player. Now, I think they were in it because the games counted for your record as well.
Right. Yeah.
Plus, you also want to see maybe the 9th, 10th, 11th guy, or in some cases, the 13th, 14th, 15th guy making an extra $500,000, and coaches making $500,000. So it's still pretty good, and it's the team camaraderie. But that's the only way I can see this thing being solved.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's, an easy solution to it too, because I think the biggest problem is like you said, Sap, it is that basically we've seen every dunk that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will give Mac McClung credit, the first one he did that should have gotten a 50 because of the best dunk of the night, where he threw it up and to himself midair and caught it again. I'd never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, most of these things you've seen a million times before, and so. It, the event that I think more people enjoy at this point is a 3-point contest, and I really think the NBA is onto something with this NBA WNBA challenge because the women's players are so good now, and because Steph Curry changed the way the game is played in a lot of ways. The women shoot from crazy range as well, so I had a lot of fun watching the Curry Ionescu shootout, and I think that next year when Caitlin Clark likely is in the WNBA. She could return one more year for Iowa, and we're going to talk about her a lot in a later podcast. Um, that they could have her come out. It's a great way. The NBA and WNBA are the same company. And so it's a great way to promote women's basketball. And the women are so good now that they can compete on pretty much even playing field with the men, regardless of what Kenny Smith has to say during the broadcast.
Right, and several other people who kind of diminished what Caitlin Clark did in breaking the NCAA women's scoring record.
Right. I thought Jay Williams was, yeah.
Yeah, and Doug Gottlieb said that she's Jimmer Fredette, so whatever.
Okay.
The one thing that I liked about the Steph Curry Sabrina Ionescu matchup is Steph is so comfortable in that because look, among the female players, whether it's high school, college, WNBA, he's the most popular player by far. Like,
For
I wouldn't
sure,
even know
yeah.
who's second. Like, because you can kind of model your game after him. Look, he's the greatest shooter ever, but it's still shooting. It's a skill that you can work on, get better at. You can only get so good at a certain level. It's a God-given talent. You can't replicate like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan.
No.
Those games aren't replicable. Although Kobe kind of replicated Jordan's game, but they might as well have been father and son. So yeah, that was a highlight, I think, of the weekend when you saw that, and her ability to shoot is phenomenal. And then Steph did what he did and ended up winning 29-26. The biggest problem with All-Star Weekend is the game itself. That has become
That's
absolutely
for sure.
a joke.
And that's what we should really be talking about, Sap, is because right. 211 points record for the All-Star game. I didn't think that I thought that at some point the scoreboard in the stadium or on TV would stop working because it's not supposed to go that high. And it's gotten out of control. And the league promised it was going to be better with the change back to East versus West. And Adam Silver had high hopes, and this was the least level of compete I think anybody's seen in an All-Star game. And now, Sap, there's talk that the players want to get paid to play in this game.
Well, here's how I would do it then. Okay. Now, as far as the scoreboard, yeah, it kind of felt like Space Jam, like we had numbers exploding out of the scoreboard. This is how I would do it. So 24 players make the All-Star game. I'd keep that number the same. I would have 3 teams of 8. I would have an Eastern Conference, a Western Conference, and a World team. So obviously on the World team, you would have Jokic, Doncic, Embiid, Giannis, SGA, because he's from Canada.
Yep.
So
what if you can't
Pascal,
field the
Siakam.
World team, though, Sap?
You should be able to get 8 players to represent the world. Right now, the 5 best players in the league might be foreign-born players.
Yeah.
So there's 5 right there. You also got Sabonis, was born, I believe, overseas. I'm not sure. Kyrie Irving was born in Australia. You got Pascal Siakam. You should be able to fit 8 players into that team. So here's what I would do. I would have a round robin. So you have 3 teams of 8, a round robin. So each of the teams play 2 games. The 2 best records meet for the championship belt of the All-Star weekend. Here's how I would do it differently. No 3-point shots. It would be strictly 2-point shots and 1-point shots. 2 points, obviously, for field goals, 1 for a free throw. First to 50 wins. So you'd have the urgency of that. So, Eastern Conference plays Western Conference. Western Conference plays World plays Eastern Conference round robin. So you'd have 3 games. First to 50 wins after the round robin. 2 best records meet in the championship. Now, the tiebreaker would be head-to-head or point differential, whatever. Work that out. But first to 50, I think, would add a lot of urgency to it. You eliminate the 3, so now you're getting more exciting basketball, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, you'd get more post-ups.
Yeah, it got absurd. They were just, dribbling one dribble over half court and shooting it at the All-Star game.
Did Damian Lillard attempt 23 threes? I mean, that's insane. That didn't feel anything close to basketball. And look, I know the 3 is prevalent in the NBA, but come on. That's what I would do. Now, again, for money, the winning team wins $20 million, which comes to $2.5 million a player. And the sneaker companies could match that. And now you've got $5 million per player on the winning team. And then maybe you have everybody else that didn't win, the other 16 players that are on the runner-up and the third-place team each make $1 million. And now I think you get much more competitive basketball because there's a prize at the end, and it just feels more like basketball, that we're not just jacking up threes. 8 players is perfect. You got 3 coming off the bench. You have some interesting matchups there. Now, that World team would be very big. right? Yeah, let's throw Rudy Gobert on there. You'd have like, a lot of big guys there. Maybe not the most athletic guys. So could they match up against the Western Conference with those players like LeBron and Durant and Curry and Kawhi Leonard and so forth? Or the East would probably have the most athletic team because they got a lot of young stars there. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Halliburton. I think that's one way to solve it. East versus West, it didn't mean a thing. Worlds versus the United States probably doesn't mean a thing. This way, I think you get quicker games so teams could, really push forward. First to 50, you wouldn't have long drawn out contests because first to 50 could probably happen in, I don't know, a half hour of real time. You have three round robin games.
It took about 5 minutes in the game on Sunday.
But you're eliminating the three.
Yeah.
You're eliminating the three, and also you're playing some defense. I mean, my other suggestion would be to throw some defensive guys into the All-Star weekend. I mean, we
Marcus
put
Smart,
Pat Beverly and Marcus Smart, and Pat Beverly's probably going to injure someone, and then that'll be the end of the All-Star weekend. So you're not going to do that. So that's my best hope. If that doesn't work,
Kyle Lowry was drawing charges a couple years ago in the All-Star game, getting him back in there.
Yep. And I think Kemba Walker did it too at some point.
If you were to take a world team just from the group this year, you would have Giannis, Luka, so that's 2. SGA's 3. Jokic is 4. Banchero.
Embiid was hurt.
Embiid was hurt, so that's 5. Right. Banchero 6.
Yep.
Would you be willing to throw in Scotty Barnes on World because he plays for a Canadian team?
There you go. On a technicality, let's put Scotty Barnes there. I think Sabonis was born in the United States because his dad was playing in Portland, I believe. But I
don't think he plays for Team USA. I'm sure he plays for a different team. So when he plays internationally, so he probably has dual citizenship.
Yeah, you could do that. Look, it's like Mike Piazza played for Italy in the Olympics, because of his ancestry. Pascal Siakam would be another player who he didn't make the All-Star team this year, but he's a borderline All-Star guy. I keep always throwing Kyrie out there because he's from Australia. Ben Simmons, who essentially doesn't play anymore, also from Australia. But you could definitely find 8 players to represent the world. And that would be the most talented team. Like I said, the 4 best players in the world are foreign born, and then that doesn't even include SGA. But
or Wembanyama.
Wembanyama. There's another guy. There's plenty of guys. It wouldn't be the most athletic team. It'd be big, But now you'd have Embiid's posting up against who's the biggest guy in the Eastern Conference that's American born, like Bam Adebayo.
Oh, by the way, Porzingis, another guy who could play in the All-Star game.
There's Porzingis. Plenty of guys that could fill that out. I think that's the only way to do it. Round robin gives it a sense of urgency, a sense of urgency, and again, you got to throw money at these problems. The players make too much money to just go out there. There's no pride left in the Eastern Conference versus the Western.
No, they don't give a damn.
Growing up, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was a big deal because, first of all, I'm so old. We didn't really see National League stars.
Didn't the AL win like 20 years in a row, Sep?
And when I was a kid, it was always the National League winning. The National League won like every year, I always root for the American League. And, but you got a chance to see Willie Mays and Henry Aaron and Roberto Clemente and whoever else was in the National League. You didn't get to see the Dow. You could see anyone you want. You just get the league pass in the NBA or the Major League Baseball pass, and you can watch your favorite player 162 times a year.
Well, and baseball's All-Star game is the only one that somewhat represents the actual sport, although they groove balls. It's not like they're throwing, 100 miles an hour when they're in there.
Especially the Derek Jeter. But
yeah, that was pathetic. That
really was. Yeah, but if someone had done that to Barry Bonds, there would have been an investigation.
Right.
Barry didn't need anybody grooving him balls. He took care of business on whatever you wanted to throw up there against him. But it's the closest to the way the sport is played. The only issue is, certain teams do this, but you bring a new pitcher in every inning and they come in and throw gas for 15 pitches. That's why the problem with the Major League Baseball All-Star game is not enough scoring. The problem with the NBA All-Star game is too much scoring. So, and in any sport that has too much scoring or not enough scoring, there are issues with that. I think that's what makes sports great, is that kind of middle road where, 28-24 football game is really exciting. I'm using that score because that's Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl, which is one of the greatest games ever played. So, yeah, again, only way to solve this is throw money at it, maybe be creative. I'll have to send my Facebook friend, Adam Silver, a an email maybe
Yeah, you will.
because we also share the same birthday. I believe he's a year older than me, but it's April 25th. So yeah, I think I could throw the suggestion at him, and for like a cool $1 billion, I'll give him all the details.
There you go. I think Sap, that it's the best suggestion in terms of fixing it is breaking it into three smaller teams.
Right.
Because it's just, and like you said, limit the scoring, have it be playground scout style, first to X amount, like you said, 50, that works
Yep.
perfectly fine. Um,
Would you still have it a full court game, no make and take? I would have a
yeah,
full court
yeah,
game. Yeah,
full court
regular
game, sure.
basketball. Just eliminate the 3-point shot. Now, again, people will say, well, that's a big part of the game. It's going to completely change it. Well, I think it'd make it more exciting.
Well, if you're gonna do that, I could say if you're gonna keep it, I like your suggestion of getting rid of it. But if you're gonna keep it, then say the team that comes in third gets no money, and really incentivize them to play hard.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So 5 million to each player on the winning team and say 2 million on the second place team. Look, the league has plenty of money and the sneaker companies would fork over money. The ratings would be higher than they were Sunday night when
If
no
they have
one
a
wanted to
target
watch that.
score, they have to, by virtue of that, they would play harder, I would imagine.
Sure.
If they're like,
Yeah.
okay, we know we have to just score this many points.
Well,
So
don't
yeah,
we all play pickup? It's 21, right? First to 21.
yeah, I think
Whatever score you want to use. We don't have clocks going in the middle of a pickup game.
no, there's no way you're going to
All-Stars.
get a rivalry, like the intensity of like a rivalry, because the players are all
No.
friends with each other. So you're
Yeah.
not going to get that anymore. You're just going to have to, yeah, you're going to have to incentivize them to do it. And they're going to have to do their part too. Listen, it's not all in the league. The players have to be willing partners here. This is the NBA's biggest showcase, of the year besides the finals, obviously. You could argue that's even bigger because, more teams are involved in it. And the players have not really been good partners to the league because this game has been crap for a while. So they need to help know that this is an opportunity to grow the game, to pick up sponsors, to get the future generation invested in basketball and play harder.
The commissioner was pissed because he talked about this has
pissed.
to be more competitive. And, he's a guy who works really well with the players. This isn't Roger Goodell. First of all, there's probably 50 players in the league that make more money than Adam Silver. Goodell makes more than any player in the NFL. He was really upset with this. And then I don't blame him. It was a joke.
Yeah, he said, the Eastern Conference, you guys scored more than anybody has in All-Star history. Good for you, I guess. Like you could tell he was upset.
Exactly.
I mean, there was from the jump, it was non-competitive. It was the entire game was non-competitive. It was a joke. They didn't take it seriously at all. So that definitely it needs to be fixed. They can't keep doing this, or they're gonna have to bag the whole All-Star game. And the players like the honor of being an All-Star and hanging out in the parties and the events during it, but they need to hold up their end of the bargain too, and put something on the court that resembles actual basketball. But amongst the guys that we saw, Sap, and some were missing from injuries, one of them is likely going to be the next face of the NBA, because that was a question asked of LeBron James during all the media stuff that they had. Is LeBron James' career is winding down, though if you look at his numbers, 25, 8, and 7, you wouldn't really know that. But he is going to be 40 next season, Sap. And so at some point, he's not going to be here anymore. In the NBA, I'm sure he's got a nice long life ahead of him. But somebody's going to have to take that mantle, just like when Jordan left, somebody had to take the mantle from him. So the question is, and the question was asked to LeBron and to a lot of players, actually, who's it going to be? Obviously, all these players, I'm sure they want it to be them. At this point, LeBron's been around so long that the guy who was supposed to take it from him, Kevin Durant, has been completely eclipsed from him. Durant might retire before LeBron does at this rate. Steph Curry has been right up there with LeBron, but LeBron's remained more popular. And so it's not going to be Curry. Those guys are now – Curry's still about in the prime of his career, but maybe a little bit past it. So somebody else. It's got to be somebody else, Sap. I don't think any of these players are going to have the career that LeBron had, but somebody has to be the face of the NBA. We've talked about this a few times before on the podcast, Sap. So who do you think it's going to be?
Well, since the merger, so I'll pick it up there, the face of the league has gone from Dr. J to Bird and Magic, then to Michael Jordan. Now, when Jordan retired in 98, no one really took that mantle. It was kind of a a dark time for the NBA.
Yeah, it's a
Ratings
cluster
went
bleep.
down, right? Because Jordan left, and there was no one ready to replace him. So, and Tim Duncan became like the best player in the league, but Tim Duncan was never going to be the face of the league. He's boring. I mean, great player, but he's dull. Kobe and Shaq were there, and they won championships. But then LeBron came around, and I'd say LeBron became the face of the league around 2007 when he got to the finals for the first time at like
Yeah, it was
22 years
Kobe and
old.
Shaq for a few years. I think that's
For a
fair to
few
say.
years. Yeah. And then they despised each other and broke up. So that's a little more to add to the story. Then I'd say LeBron took over in 2007 and has remained the face of the league since. Steph Curry's been kind of like his vice president, like he's there.
Yeah,
and
that's a good
again,
way to put it.
The league has expanded. He's the greatest 3-point shooter ever, and I think he's really helped with the growth of women's basketball. So who's the next face of the franchise, face of the league? Okay, so again, you go right to like the best players because all those guys I mentioned were all the best player at some point. So, Jokic, no. I mean,
He
he
doesn't
makes
want to, has no interest.
no, he makes Tim Duncan look like freaking Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's not a personality. He's a great player. Giannis, okay, his game again. He's a big in a sense, and
For what it's
his
worth,
game,
Sap, leading vote. He was the leading vote getter of
yeah,
all of All-Star voting. He passed
true,
LeBron.
even more than LeBron. People love him because he seems authentic and he doesn't fit in with the AAU culture. Although he's become a diva as well. Look, when you win a championship and 2 MVPs and make a gazillion dollars, you become a diva. Embiid, no, because he's a big. Luka hasn't won enough yet. SGA. Okay, here's the 3 names I'm going to throw out there.
Well, Seth,
SGA,
before you do you mind if I just cut in for 1 second?
Sure,
Because this is something that you've said.
Because I'm actually rambling myself here. I'm all over the place.
This is
Take
something that
over
you've
for
said.
me.
This is something that you said before,
Yep.
and I want to echo it too because it's a discussion people had about baseball and too with face of the league, and that it's hard for the face of a American or North American sport to be a foreign-born player. That doesn't imply racism or anything like that. And I know you and I have talked about this before. It's just like it's the go-to guy when you're the face of the league. It's the go-to guy for marketing, for press, and all that stuff like that. And if English is your second or third language, as it often is for some of these foreign-born players, even if they speak it perfectly, the guys they want to go to are American players because they're selling things to products mostly to American audience. Doesn't mean that they're not great players. It's not taking anything away from them. It's just a pure marketing thing, too, when you're talking about face of the league. So I think that obviously Giannis is a huge star, and he has tons of, he's in a ton of commercials and stuff like that. But I think if you ask an advertising agency or an advertising company, if you could pick any player in the NBA, they do it for free. What commercial would you take? Most of them would take an American. I can't see any of them not taking an American player if they had their choice of everybody.
You're right. You said it so perfectly, Jet. And we've talked about that before. So we're not being xenophobic here. It's just what
right. So I think it disqualifies guys like Giannis, Doncic,
Embiid,
Jokic, Embiid.
Yep.
Again, all great players, and they can all be big time advertising, guys who sell tons of jerseys. But that doesn't necessarily make you the face of the league.
So SGA's not American born; he's Canadian, but he can be part of this discussion, right? I mean,
it's a North. I'm including all of North America,
all of North America, with the exception of say the best player in basketball is from Mexico and spoke Spanish as his first language. That might be difficult to wedge into.
It's going to be a while to the best player in basketball is from Mexico.
That's true.
Sports just not that popular there. Yeah,
we've seen some weird places where the best tennis players come from. Like Switzerland, Spain, and Slovenia or whatever. So those 3 guys were all from kind of Spain, not necessarily, but who the hell thought that the greatest tennis player ever would come from Switzerland? And Novak Djokovic is from
Serbia.
I believe Serbia. That's right. He's from the same country as Nikola Jokic. How's that for a small country like that?
Not bad.
That tennis player and that basketball player. Holy cow. So, okay, let's throw SGA in there. Obviously, Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards. Those are the first 3 names that come to mind. Now,
can you be the face of the league, Sep, without winning a title, by the way? Don't you need to win a title?
Well, LeBron became the face of the league 5 years before he won a title, and Jordan kind of did too, but you still had Bird Magic there, but he had surpassed them as the face of the league. Look, there'll be revisionist history even before he won a title, he was the face of the league. But we're talking about the two greatest players ever, in Jordan and LeBron, and they were just you're not going to duplicate that. So I think at some point, whether it's SGA, Tatum, Anthony Edwards, have to win a title. Now, the two guys that I thought a couple of years ago when we had this discussion that could be there would be Zion.
Yeah,
and
I
John
thought
Morant.
that's what I thought it was going to be. It was Zion for sure.
Zion. He doesn't play enough. He plays 40% of his team's game.
No.
John Morant as well. But like I said earlier, John Morant decided he wanted to be Joe Pesci and Goodfellas. That's not going to be the face of the league. So
no marketing. You don't want to touch him if you're a company
no.
right now. You don't want him associated with your brand.
You also want someone with a little bit of an edge, though. You don't want Jason
not that
Tatum.
Much.
No, not that much of an edge. No. You don't have to go that far. When I say edge, like Jordan had an edge, Bird had an edge,
right?
Magic didn't really have an edge, but he played in LA and
Kobe
was so charismatic. Oh, Kobe certainly had an edge. LeBron is so polarizing and is the most scrutinized athlete ever that's enough to make him the face of the league. So Tatum is a guy who, is one of the 5-6 best players in the league, plays on a marquee franchise. They're favored to win the title. So if they win the title, maybe he becomes the face of the league, or at least he's setting himself up to become the face of the league once LeBron retires. Tatum is a handsome guy. Like, there's no hint of any scandal with him. I mean, that's like the guy
dad.
you want that's the guy you want your sister to marry. That he's just a really good guy. You want all the kids to look up to him. His game isn't flashy. It's a lot like Durant's game. It's incredible. It's efficient. It's beautiful to watch, but it's not like awe-inspiring. Anthony Edwards could be the guy, right? Because he's got a bit of an edge to him. He plays a flashier game. That team's really good. He's a personality. Maybe he's the guy. But again,
they got to maintain
have to win.
Yeah,
right.
He has to win.
Or
it's harder it's harder, Sep, when you're on a team like Minnesota versus when you're on a team like Boston. It's a marquee franchise in the Celtics, like you said. And we were talking about those guys who were faces of the league in that, Jordan played in Chicago, Bird played at Boston, Magic played in LA, obviously. Dr. J played in Philly. And LeBron, I guess, sort of bucked that trend by playing in, Cleveland and becoming the face of the league. But then he did go to Miami, and obviously now he's a Laker. But yeah, it's hard. Anthony Edwards has a harder task to be to do it because he plays on Minnesota. So that really forces him to have to try to win a championship if he wants to accomplish that.
Yeah, those are the three guys that come to mind because they're right in their prime, they're entering their prime in the case of Anthony Edwards. Whereas obviously LeBron, Durant, and Curry are still great, but they're on the well beyond the back nine. They're staring at the clubhouse. And as we said earlier, and you said it perfectly, it's tough to have a foreign-born player, a non-English speaking player, be the face of the league. It's just very difficult. Like, as much as Shohei Ohtani is the face of baseball, it can be difficult because I've never heard him speak English, and you're still trying to sell this to an English-speaking market. Whereas maybe Mookie Betts is the face of baseball as much as anyone. Now, baseball's a little different because you have so many of the great players are Spanish speaking. So it's such a worldwide game, as is basketball. But still, the dollars are created in the United States more than anywhere when it comes to basketball. So Edwards, Tatum, SGA, if Zion can play 65 games a year and at least contend for a title, he could be the guy. He's very charismatic. John Morant's kind of taken himself out of the equation. Wembanyama, he's 7'5". You don't generally see bigs as the face of the league.
Well, not because slender man, certainly.
No, and Shaq was the guy, but Shaq was an anomaly. Shaq was the one big that had an outsized personality. Like, Kareem was the best player in basketball for 7-8 years, but he didn't have the personality like Shaq. Moses Malone was probably the best player in basketball for 2 or 3 years. He, no way in hell, was ever going to be the face of the league. I mean, Moses Malone was sweating, 2 trips down the court, and he played an ugly, aggressive game. Wembanyama's outstanding, but again, 7'5". The face of the league oftentimes are players that maybe kids want to emulate. Like, you can't emulate 7'5".
No.
When I was growing up, kids weren't going to the playground practicing the sky hook. We just weren't doing that. We wanted to do finger rolls like Dr. J.
Right. Well, if you want to do things you can realistically, like you said, emulate. I mean, you can't.
Right.
Most people who are walking planet Earth can't dunk a basketball.
No,
that's just a fact.
Nope.
So in a way, Seth, like you're saying, Tatum's game's not flashy, but you can't do it like he could do it, but you can emulate it a bit.
Sure, yeah, because he does everything so well. He's fundamentally sound, and I like the way he's been this year. He's been a better leader, a better spokesman. In fact, he was asked about this. He goes, "Well, if I win, then I'll have something to say
Yeah,
about it." Because he
and
was
he's
asked
right.
about that. Perfect. Like every time he speaks now, I'm going, this is a guy that's maturing right before our eyes. That's why I think they can win the championship, not just because they have the most talented team. He's the leader of that team. He's the best player, and I think he's starting to understand what it takes to win and accept his role more than just scoring 35 points on a given night, right? So he's become a more thoughtful, mature guy. And let's not forget, he's 25.
Yeah.
He's still a baby, but he's got all those other things going for him. No scandal, good looking guy, already does a lot of commercials. Maybe if he lets a little bit more of his personality out, and look, he's got the cutest kid in the league and Deuce. So maybe Deuce is part of it. Maybe Deuce is the co-face of the league with his dad.
Yeah. Or maybe it's Bronny James when he comes into the
Well, Bronny's going to have to start playing a little bit better. And look, I think Bronny's freshman year has been difficult because of the health scare he had this summer. So,
Yeah,
I think he's still trying to find his way out there on the court, and maybe needs one more year at USC. I hope he plays one more year at USC.
he should. Yeah.
I hope LeBron doesn't force him into the NBA next year, because that would be kind of selfish on LeBron's part.
He's not ready. He's not even close
He's
to
not
ready.
ready. He's not ready at all. And then this isn't the kind of thing where you throw him out there and hope he can hold his own against grown men that are just better. Let him play another year at USC. LeBron's going to play several more years, so it's not like they're in a rush. Well, they're kind of in a rush to do it, but not. It's not as urgent as you would think for most 39 or 40-year-olds, because LeBron still has, to me, 2 really good years left in him without question, maybe even 3.
Yeah, more three. I mean, I don't really see much depreciation in his game. I mean, I think the only thing that's really depreciated is his ability to maximize role players around him, like he used to. Maximize bums
Right.
around him, like Boobie Gibson or James Jones, or name any of 1,000 people whose names we only know because they played with LeBron James. That's where his game has kind of tailed off, but he's still
And
a
on the
top,
defensive end,
still
he's
yeah, he's
not
still
the
top
defensive
10,
player he used to be.
top 10 player in the league, easy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
He does what he has to do out there.
play as long as he wants to. I mean, at this rate, really, it doesn't
He
seem like he's
he,
slowing down. Same with
he
Brady. I
played
mean, Brady walked away
the same thing,
after leading the league in yards. Like, he didn't have
right?
to. He just decided it was time to. He didn't have diminishing skills.
No, those two guys play with their brain more than anything, and that they just get actually better with age, because, as Brady said before, I've got the answers to the test. And
Yeah.
LeBron feels the same way. He's on the basketball court. Like, the reflexes might not be quite as good, the explosion may not be quite as good, but he's so skilled, like Brady was, that they could compensate with any kind of loss of, like, explosive skills in their
Yeah.
brain. Is just is their secret weapon.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see who the guy is. It'll be interesting, and we'll be talking about it for years to come, obviously. But that's going to do it for us here at the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap. Thanks to Full Press Coverage. Go check out their website. Check out our social medias at JohnSap25, at Jet Stryer. We'll be back with a new podcast very soon. Lots of stuff to talk about as the NBA resumes action. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you later. See ya.